One of the biggest arguments in this country is how to spend our nation's budget, and a very large part of that is the agricultural subsidies. As Americans, we have priorities for what agricultural products get the most money, and the tradition of giving it to crops like corn, wheat, and soybeans. Some may say that these are not in any way harmful foods, that there are food pyramids show how much we should eat of each of these, so it makes sense that these products are subsidized. But we Americans are not simply taking these products from the plant and eating them. No, instead, 40% of soy and 60% of corn is directly being fed to livestock. These underlying problems are what cost us as Americans our good health and millions of dollars wasted. A major issue our agriculture subsidies is the way that they are distributed. Over the past 18 years, while 19 billion has been given in corn and soy, only 689 million has been given to apples. One might interpret this as not being that far off, and that corn and soy are two crops while apples are only one. Also, a less popular crop, so it should get less. But this sort of thought is what is making our country more obese than ever. Not only is the healthiest of these three crops here getting the least amount of government funding, apples are the only fruit or vegetable nationwide that is subsidized. A very large flaw in these subsidies is the correlation to the food pyramid. It used to be thought that breads and pastas should be the biggest part of your diet, but that has now changed. Instead of grains, nutritionists are now recommending that fruits and vegetables should be the most heavily consumed food. Grains went from nearly 11 servings a day down to around 6, and fruits and vegetables combined went from 5 servings a day up to around 11. So doesn't it make sense that the food groups that are supposed to be eaten more are cheaper and more readily available? Increasing subsidies on these fruits and vegetables would do just that. The annual apple subsidies would only enable each taxpayer to buy half an apple each year with the annual corn and subsidies, while the annual corn and soy subsidies would add up to nearly 20 Twinkies for each taxpayer. I'm not sure what food group Twinkies are, but in half an apple a year, it's definitely not 11 servings a day. Not only are these high subsidies for corn and wheat making the price for junk food lower, these subsidies are also lowering the price for unhealthy dairy products. Dairy is not really an unhealthy food group, nor is some junk food, but when the price of meats are so low that they are more cost-effective than fruits and vegetables, which as a result makes dairy a large part of Americans' diet. That is why I say that dairy products are unhealthy. To show how much corn and soy subsidies are affecting the cost of livestock, we see how much more these farmers will pay without these subsidies. It would cost a farmer 7 to 10% more to run a farm if it wasn't for these subsidies. This mass amount of dairy products is not only hurting the consumer, but the cheap corn and soy feeds are actually not good for the cattle. Cows are naturally supposed to feed on grass because of their multi-chambered digestive tracts. And because of this system, cattle raised on grain can develop severe health problems, including liver abscesses, bloat, and sudden death syndrome. So why did these farmers use these very cheap subsidies for feed? Farmers use these unhealthy types of food to put their cattle at danger because these protein-rich grains help bring their animal to market weight faster. I think anyone can understand why farmers would want to be able to sell their cattle faster, but that is exactly why red meat is known to be poor for one's health. Another major underlying issue that has direct correlation to these subsidies on unhealthy food is the amount of money that is costing us as Americans medical bills. This is something that most people do not relate to soy, corn, and wheat subsidies, but as explained before, these subsidies are making unhealthy foods cheaper and causing us to be more obese. In 2008, the cost for obese-related conditions spiked up to $147 billion, and $61 billion of this was from Medicare and Medicaid. Over 60% of deaths in the U.S. come from the disease directly linked to persons unhealthy. All of these unsaturated fats and cholesterol-laden diets can lead to heart disease, cancer, stroke, liver disease, and high blood pressure. Seeing that the majority of these unhealthy foods come from products that are highly subsidized, it is again hard to understand why it is this way. One would think that these subsidies were making the country a ton of money, but when you step back and look at what is really going on, we are only costing us billions and killing billions at the same time. As Americans, we have a right to make ourselves healthier, and as a right to change tradition. So as the government funding on energy has changed, so should the subsidies on agricultural products. We are costing ourselves billions of dollars in hospital bills and millions of lives that could be better lived if just healthier foods were more available. It is going to be hard to make these changes, especially since our recent Farm Bill was just released without any changes in fruits and vegetable subsidies. But when the time comes to vote on this, we must think about the future of our country and the fact that poorly distributed agricultural subsidies are hurting us. Thanks.